Hello, I'm Christian McMahon with the ARC of California and Disability Vote California, and today we are having a roundtable discussion about how we make our choices before we vote. Joining me today, I have a wonderful group of speakers. Kecia, will you introduce yourself first?
Yes. My name is Kecia Weller, and I work for the UCLA Tarjan Center, which is a UCEDD, and University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. And my director asked me to represent the Tarjan Center on Disability Vote California. And I just wanted to tell everyone that voting is very dear to my heart because voting is using our voice.
Thank you, Kecia. Wesley, will you introduce yourself next?
Hi, my name is Wesley Witherspoon. I'm with the USC UCEDD, and voting is very important because people died for the right to vote. People with disabilities and minorities didn't have the right to vote. So we have the right to vote, and we should exercise our right to vote.
Thank you very much, Wesley. Howard, can you introduce yourself?
Howard McBroom. I am an advocate for Easterseals, and I am also an ambassador for Disability Voices United. And I too agree that voting is very important and never more so than this election.
Wonderful, thank you, Howard. Sascha?
I'm Bittner. I'm Sascha Bittner. I'm the Therapy Bay Area Regional Advisory Committee. I'm the chair of the Bay Area Regional Advisory Committee. On developmental disability. On developmental disabilities. And my vote is a power. And our vote is our power.
Wonderful, absolutely right. I love hearing the passion and excitement for voting from each of you. So the discussion today is just going to be a nonpartisan discussion about how we find information and make choices when we're voting. So I'd like to ask you all a question, just to start off. How do you make decisions before you vote? Like, do you have friends and family that you talk with? Howard, why don't you start? Do you talk with friends and family?
Well, what I do is I don't look at just what the candidates say. I look at who they are. I look at what they do. I look at what they stand for. And what I look for is compassion. I look for kindness. I look for intelligence. I look for understanding. I look for people who know that the laws of nature are not subject to human political control. I look for people who realize that compassion is important and necessary and that they need to reach out to all groups of society, disabled people included. I look out for people who feel that we all need to count, that we all need to be included, and that we are stronger when we are together. And I look for people who know that hate does not make a nation great, and that we are. What makes a nation great is when we unify together, when we provide opportunity and inclusion for all. Those are the things that I look for in that candidate. Not just what they say, but those are the things that I look for people who know that hate does not make a nation great, and treating people with compassion and decency and dignity does make a nation great.
That's very true and very well said. Wesley, how about you? How do you go about finding information before you make your choice to vote?
So what I do when I look for information to vote, I would talk to League of Women Voters and see things are nonpartisan. And also I'll talk to my friends and family, and also look at a person's track record, see if that person is voting according to my values. Everybody's values are different. There's so many political parties out there, and there's a lot of beliefs. There's conservative, there's moderate, there's liberal. There's a lot of different perspectives out there. So you vote according to what your values are. Some people are into business, some people are into human rights. It's your choice of what you vote for. So that's part of voting is your self-expression.
Well said. Kecia, how about you? How do you find information before you vote?
I do extreme amount of research on the candidates and the issues that everyone is voting on. My usual mode of election research is going to non-partisan voting organizations like This May Vote California, League of Women Voters, and the California Secretary of State. I am always looking for my big voting book that everyone gets from the Secretary of State of California that gives me the candidate statements and the pros and cons of each topic that I have to vote on. I vote with my moral compass intact. I ask myself, will voting on a candidate or issue help or hurt the community at large? If I find information about a particular candidate or issue that the cons outweigh the pros, I definitely not voting for the candidate or issue. And I typically compare my notes with my family for voting information. I love comparing with my family because they can offer me a different perspective than what I probably would have thought about in voting. I can also give my own family different perspectives on voting for candidates and issues on the ballot.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I love hearing about that you have those conversations with your family, because no two people are ever going to feel exactly the same way, and it's really good to get different perspectives. Sascha, how about you? How do you make your decisions before you vote?
And first of all, I'm a little more partisan.
I'm a little more partisan.
I'm the stem.
I just am.
I vote for candidates and policies.
I vote for candidates and policies
that reflect my values.
That reflect my values.
And priorities for our country.
And priorities for our country.
And like Kecia. And like
Kecia.
I do it with a moral compass.
I do it with a moral compass.
I'm pretty informed about political issues.
I'm pretty informed about political issues.
So I have a good idea of with policies and candidates.
So I have a good idea of which policies and candidates
I want to support from the beginning.
I'm
also very involved.
I'm also very involved
in my particular political party. So if I'm not sure, I'd like to see what the state.
I check to see what the state
our local party is recommending.
Our local party is recommending.
I
also check out endorsements by political leaders I trust and organizations that share my values.
And maybe Mom can read them.
You want me to read the rest of it? Along with recommendations from media sources I trust. Sometimes I attend candidate forums or proposition forums. I do not pay attention to random people on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media, since so many lies are being spread to divide us and damage our election.
Yeah.
Oh, well said. That's very important, which actually leads in perfectly to the next question is, how do you make decisions when you get two different opinions from people or sources that you trust? Sascha, do you want to start us off on that one and just keep going?
Well, that's happening now.
That's happening now?
And the supervisor race in my district.
In the supervisor race in my district?
With 7 candidates.
With 7 candidates?
From
my party.
I narrowed it down.
To 2.
By looking at
the candidate literature,
and with organization and with
And which organizations
I'm knowing them
are endorsing them
and why.
and why?
I'm
I still
getting right to
couldn't
die.
quite decide.
I'm getting read to it.
You want me to read the rest? Are you having trouble today? Okay, so I'm choosing the one who has lived in my district much longer, since that experience could be helpful. But either candidate would be great. Well, I'm still not sure. When I'm still not sure about a proposition or initiative, I go through the same process of reading the explanations. I'm looking at endorsements, then make the best informed decision I can.
Yeah, and I also figure if I'm conflicted,
I also figure if I'm conflicted,
I'm quite as passionate about.
it may not be something I'm quite as passionate about.
If I could go either way.
It could go either way.
Fair. Yeah, that's a very logical and good way to do it. How about you, Wesley? How do you make decisions when you get two different opinions from people or sources that you trust?
So when I have two different opinions that tell me how to vote, I go to the one that's more aligned with my values, and I do research. I go on the track record to see if I like the track record or not, and it should be on what you value. It's really important. If someone's more aligned to what I believe, they'll get my vote.
Perfect. Kecia, do you have anything to add?
Yes, of course. I mainly use my moral compass and my sharp ethical thinking to help me to decide on what to vote on. I use informed decision making. It's okay to disagree with people. Two different opinions about a voting topic gives me different perspectives to learn from. When making a decision about who or what to vote for, I always use supported decision-making process.
Oh, that's really good. And Howard, do you have anything to add? How do you make decisions when you get two different opinions from sources you trust?
Yes, I do. I am guided by my knowledge of history. I am a history student. I have a degree in history from Indiana University, a BA degree in history. I know a lot about history, and I let that guide me because my knowledge of history tells me who people are. It tells me what's going to happen if they get elected. And that's what I use to guide myself with. I might vote for somebody, but that doesn't necessarily mean I think he's going to win. But I'm going to vote for somebody because my knowledge of history tells me that he at least will not wreck the country, and the other guy might.
That's very, very smart to use history and your moral compass. I think you guys are giving wonderful answers. So the next question I had, actually, Kecia, you already brought up. I was going to ask if any of you used supported decision-making when you're getting ready to vote. And Kecia, you said that you do use supported decision-making. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Kristen. By talking with my family on voting is part of my supported decision-making process. A other part of the supportive decision-making in voting is I talk at length with my two valuable independent living coordinators about voting. I discuss all the pros and cons of candidates and issues on the voting ballot. My family and service providers give me their opinions to me, and I decide on who or what to vote on by using my moral compass as a guide.
Wonderful. Does anybody else on this call use supported decision-making with voting? I think looks like, Kecia, you're the only one, and I think that's really valuable. You're going to help a lot of people who use supported decision-making to kind of get an idea of what it is. So thank you very much.
Excellent.
So the final question I have is, this year, the election, because of the pandemic, is going to take place a little bit differently than it has in the past. So I would love it if you're willing to each share your plan to vote this year. Wesley, what is your plan to vote this year? How are you going to be voting?
So my plan, everybody have different plans, but my plan hopefully is to vote by mail. And before I get my vote by mail ballot, I'm gonna make sure that I get my ballot. If I don't get my ballot, I call to the county register of voters to see if I got my ballot. And if my plan doesn't go through, I might go to a drop box to drop off my ballot. So with the pandemic, for me personally, I don't want to go to the polls because it's a risk going to the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my plan.
It's a good plan. Sascha, what is your plan to vote this year?
Once I get my ballot in the mail.
Once I get my ballot in the mail?
During the week of October 5th.
During the week of October 5th?
Which I have noted.
Which I've noted.
In my calendar.
In my calendar.
I will immediately fill it out.
I'll immediately fill it out.
And then a family member.
Will
drop it off.
Will drop it off.
At a voting drop box.
At a voting drop box.
Within a day of receiving it.
Within a day of receiving it.
But no matter what. I will vote. During this critical election.
Wonderful. Howard, what is your plan to vote this year?
My plan to vote is, first of all, to vote by mail. That begins October 5th. And that would be my number one choice would be to vote by mail. My second choice is, if for some reason that should not be possible, my second choice would be to go vote at the polls and not on election day itself. The line there will be 1,000,000 miles long. It might be 1,000,000 miles long anyway, but I'm going to wait no matter how long it takes because I know how important this is, and that's quite literally the future of the country is at stake. You know, yes. I know how critically important it is that we elect people who will help to unify the country and who will try to at least stop some of the divisiveness instead of promoting it. I will be guided by my knowledge that hate does not make a nation great, and I will vote, for whatever way seems best. And my number one preference would be to vote by mail because I think that's the safest way and most certain way.
Yes, I think that's very good. And I know we will all be getting our ballots in the mail in the state of California. Kecia, what is your plan to vote this year?
Yes, I have signed up for a ballot tracker on the Secretary of State of California website. As soon as I get my voting ballot, I will mark all my choices for candidates and voting issues within 48 hours of the ballot's arrival to my house. I will seal my ballot. I will look at my California identification card for the proper way to sign my name on the ballot envelope. I will then go scouting to the nearest voting secure box that has been put out by the Los Angeles County Clerk or any county clerk in the state of California. I will put my ballot in the voting secure box and go track my ballot online at the Secretary of State of California website, Equip to Vote California.
Wonderful. That is great. I thank you all for your time. This has been a really wonderful conversation, and I know that a lot of people are going to learn a lot from you all and your example. Is there anything else anyone would like to say in closing? I think we've covered it all, so I just really appreciate your time. And I'm gonna stop the recording and just encourage everybody to go vote. Oh, Wesley, you're muted.
Okay, Kecia, I want to say in closing, you don't have to vote on everything is on the ballot. Just vote for what's important to you, and just vote what your values are. Everybody's very different, so our values are very different. So I encourage everybody to go vote, and I recommend that if you decide to vote by mail, I encourage you to do it early. If you go to the polls, I encourage you to go vote early as possible because there might be a line as we get closer to election day. The main election day, November 3rd, mine. So go out and vote, know what your values are, and voting is self-advocacy, and self-advocacy is voting. So go out and vote.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're right. I think voting is a very important piece of self-advocacy, and I thank you for that.
And I would also add, vote your interest. Vote for whichever candidate you think will best support the rights of disabled people and minorities. Vote your interest. Because if you don't vote your interest, somebody else might. And their interest might not be yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody is going to vote your interests because we're all very different from one another. And I think that is very important for the disability community to know that we have this power to choose the people who create the programs that we live with. And I think that we can make a huge difference on election day by voting.
And some candidates are going to be better at supporting our interests than others. I don't think there's anyone out there who's really perfect about it, but there are some who are much more likely to at least listen to us when we talk than others are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Kristen?
Yes, Kecia.
I would like to have some input. There's a myth out there that if you do not vote for every single item on the ballot, your ballot is invalid. Well, that is totally incorrect.
Absolutely.
Because quite often, when I vote, if I don't know about a candidate or issue, I don't vote. If I can't make an informed decision about something, I don't vote on that candidate or item on my ballot. And so the last thing I just want to say, vote. I encourage everybody to vote because it is so critical in this particular election.
Absolutely, absolutely. I thank you all for your time. I'm going to stop the recording there and just encourage, you've already said everything, just everybody should go vote. They should make their decisions in the best way that works for them. And thank you all for watching this.